nothing against foxes per se, but I just don't think they belong in the city.
I like animals, but the fox I don't like because they make too much trouble in my garden.
My opinion on foxes is very mixed. It depends whether it's city or country. So I like a nice country fox. I don't mind that at all, but I don't like city foxes. They're scavengers and they look unhealthy and they're quite dirty and they're quite destructive as well. I don't think it's necessarily their fault because they're attracted to the city because of human behavior and the filth of humans and dropping of food and things like that, but I don't like them. I find them very dirty. You meet them quite often if you come home, especially if you come home late at night or if you get up early in the morning. They're around on the roads and the pavements and they kind of own the streets, so it's quite strange to meet a fox and it's just not budging, you know, it's you who kind of have to step out of its way.
They mess everywhere. Now, this morning, they didn't have a hard mess. Was running and I had to bloody clean it. Oh no, it's too much for me. I'm scared. My cat doesn't want to go out anymore because they come always in my garden. I don't know why, and I'm scared. And the shed, when I saw this big hole, I think they're gonna make a nest. Why they do this under the shed? I don't know how many there are. I'm sure there is few because once I saw three little ones. They look so nice, but now they're growing up and they make trouble. Well, it should be fox around, but not here near the house. I don't think so. At least you know, if you got dog or cat, it's all right. I like animals anyway, but no, not when they do damage.
My name's Matt Moran. I am a wildlife photographer specialising in urban wildlife stories, and for over the past 5, nearly 6 years now, I've been working exclusively with urban foxes here in London. People's attitudes towards foxes are kind of bizarre. Most of the press that you see around foxes, particularly in the tabloids, is negative. And sadly this comes to, form many people's attitudes towards them. But actually when you ask, the wider public, especially the British, we're a so-called nation of animal lovers, and all the polls that I've seen are that people on the whole do like and love foxes. So it's quite strange that we have this negative attitude towards them. I think there's, in my experience, certainly a lot of NIMBYism around, certain people who claim to love animals and wildlife might not want a fox in their back garden digging or pooing on their front doorstep or generally causing a nuisance. And I can understand if you care about your garden. We also need to learn that these spaces are their spaces. We've built onto their land, we've encroached into their habitat, and it just so happens that the fox is really incredible at adapting to these environments. And I think that's something that should be celebrated, especially as we've hunted to extinction so many of our great carnivores here in the UK. And I think an animal like the fox deserves that extra respect because of how it's adapted to human encroachment and relentless persecution over hundreds, thousands of years. It still managed to survive, and that, whether you like foxes or not, is impressive.
There's a big fox population. They often breed within the allotment. There's a couple of places where they have dens. Their hunting ground extends away from the allotment as well into the local streets. And of course these days there's a number of people that regularly feed the foxes. And so generally the foxes are thriving. And they're a wild animal, but in some ways they've become more tame. And they can be a problem at times, but I think with wildlife you have to take the rough with the smooth. And my attitude is, well, they've done a little bit of damage, you go along and you repair it and you carry on. We've got a few people who are more negative, shall we say. But to be fair, the cats that run around can do a similar amount of damage to the foxes. And so I think it's a case of live and let live.
I'm Brian. I'm the chairperson of the allotment. I've been the chairperson for 5 years. My term's coming to an end soon. Foxes, they're dirty animals, so they poo everywhere. They empty the rubbish bins because the rubbish bins are not fox-proof, and they leave the trash all over the street. People keep putting domestic waste in the public bins, and that attracts the foxes. The positive aspect, they're an amazing animal. They're so agile, you know, they can get anywhere and up onto anything. It's amazing how they cover every inch of the ground. And they're fascinating to watch, yeah, their behavior and so on. I had an incident 3 years ago now, and we were sleeping in the bedroom on the second floor. One night, middle of the night, I woke up and I thought, why is Amelie sitting on my chest? And I opened my eyes and there was a fox standing on my chest on the second floor, looking at me. And the minute I moved, it was gone. Our wildlife is so threatened in this country. I think they're a necessary evil, and any wildlife that we can promote and preserve, it can only be a good thing. And they keep the rats down, that's another thing, yeah. They keep the rats and the mice down. And I suppose they clean up the streets a bit.
You know, because we've had these messages delivered to us through early books and paintings about the fox being cunning and deceitful, and then passed down from generation to generation, it's very hard to undo that and to send positive messages out there. And I also think that humans have an innate fear of predators, you know, however big or small. And I think perhaps that's also fair. We were hunted by carnivores thousands of years ago, and that's still within us. So when we see an animal like a fox, even though it's so small, yeah, it's got sharp teeth, and if it did bite you, it would hurt. People and wildlife can cohabit. And in fact, people and wildlife have been cohabiting for thousands of years. and foxes have always lived closely alongside people, so we can continue that. And yeah, I'm not expecting everybody just to turn around and say, yeah, I love foxes, but I think what I want to tell people is just, you know, think differently, open up your mind and ask yourself, what kind of world do you want to live in? One with no wildlife? Well, that just doesn't work. As we know, it's already quite obvious that we need ecosystems properly functioning. And you know, there is such a disconnect with nature, particularly people living in the cities. So it's going to take a long time to unlearn and restore and redress the balance. But I'm not a pessimist, I'm an optimist, and I hope that, you know, we have the capability, well, I think we do have the capability of doing it, we just have to have the will, that's for sure.